What is happening, mediocre people of YouTube? Well, we're doing this video again because it came up in a live stream yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which, on one of the Amp Guys live streams. The question was asked how to get Randy Rhoads tone, and the guy hosting the live stream said, well, you know, what tone are you talking about? Because when you talk Randy Rhoads tone, you know, some of it was very, and he's right, you know. And any of the stuff I'm going to tell you in this video, which I'm sure I've told you before. Look, Randy was my guy. I loved Randy. I was a Randy Rhoads guy. When all the rest of the guys were all going Eddie Van Halen, I was all about Randy Rhoads, and I still am. And I'm one of those people that has tons of useless information about Randy Rhoads. So anything I'm telling you in this video, you can go verify on my channel. Most of it, you can go watch a video that I put on my channel called Randy Rhoads Full Guitar Lesson. It is audio only, but it is very cool. So when we talk about getting Randy Rhoads tones, you know, we do have to, what tones are you talking about? Because a lot of people really love all the live stuff, myself included. So when you talk about Randy Rhoads live tones with Ozzy, what you're talking about is a super lead and a 4x12 and a pedal board, which Ozzy and Randy affectionately called the frying pan, because every time especially when he hit the distortion, it was and just about the time that got started, just about the time he got started with the pedal board, he really wasn't even using it anymore. He said because, you know, the front of house was doing so much on their own, he really didn't have a need for any effects anymore. You know, meaning the sound system. You know, when you've got a monitor in front of you, and you know, you really don't even need to hear your amp. And that is going to be a lost, it's going to be lost on the younger generation of musicians and guys that want to play guitar and be in bands and stuff. They're not going to experience a lot of that, and I would certainly recommend experiencing the old way of doing things, because that's how you're going to write a hit. If that's what you're into, you want to make it big in a band, you're going to have to get in the trenches and do it the old school way. Meaning, you know, you would go, the reason you went to sound check, the reason sound check was important. Now people, you know, over the last 20 years, people stopped even showing up at sound checks. But before that, you showed up at sound check so that you could tape the stage, you know. Meaning, you know, Randy talked about how, you know, his guitar would squeal so much, you know, he just learned how to play that way. Because the other thing you did is you also learned how to play your rig, you know, not just play the guitar, but actually play your rig, you know, and know where to stand, when to stand, you know, so that you're not dealing with a bunch of squealing, or you're minimalizing it as much as possible, or you are standing in a spot that gives you very cool feedback for whatever you're doing. So you would go out and tape little X's on the stage, you know, where you could stand, where you'd want to stand for the majority of the part, where you'd want to stand when you wanted some feedback, where you wanted to be when you kicked your distortion pedal on, or whatever other effect, you know. And that, again, is probably going to become a lost art, unfortunately. Not because I'm against the new way of doing things, it's just that the new way of doing things really takes away a lot of the humanization of music, in my opinion. You can't pick anyone out on the radio anymore. It's, you know, it's all the same garbage. And in my opinion, you know, if you really want to have a great band, you need to do it the old school way. Go get into a garage with your amps and your drums and turn everything up to 10 and play that way and write that way. Get together with some people and actually sit down and hash it out and write your record, you know. So getting back to what Randy said about that, is that he really wasn't even using the effects anymore so much because of what front of house was doing. They were able to, you know, get him dialed in where he wanted to be, and he didn't have to do anything. So So if you're talking about Randy Rhoads live tones, a good bass would be some type of super lead setup, or and a distortion plus pedal. That would be a good bass for you to be at if you wanted to get Randy Rhoads live tones. Now, when you're talking about the tones he recorded on the albums, and I don't know how to tell you this, but what you're hearing is a Fender Champ. Maybe with a distortion plus pedal in front of it. Probably not, because again, and before we get into this, just to go back to the live stuff, you really don't know what Randy Rhoads, how he was getting that tone, because you don't know what they were doing in the front of house. You don't know, you can't say for sure what effects they were putting on it at the mixing board. You just don't really. It's very difficult to say how to get that tone, because we don't know what the guy at the mixing board was putting on it. So, like I say, a very good starting platform would be something like a super lead and a MXR distortion plus pedal. So when we talk about the studio albums, you're hearing a Fender Champ. Understanding that Randy recorded 3 separate identical tracks, left, right, and center. And then those tracks were blended together. Max Norman said that he'd never seen anyone play guitar solos the exact same way repeatedly, the way Randy Rhoads did it, which is a testament to his ability. If you want to get the tones that Randy had on the albums, Fender Champ, turn it up to 10, and now that's a good starting point. But like I said, unless you're actually recording right, left, and center, you're not going to get that exact tone. But there's a big misconception, misperceived, that Randy recorded with, and I've read it over and over on different online forums, that Randy was recorded with Marshall super leads, and he just didn't. How do I know? Because Rudy Sarzo told me. And if anybody that's going to be honest, and Bob Daisley as well told me in his book, if there's anybody that's going to be honest in that group of people, it's going to be Bob Daisley and Rudy Sarzo. I certainly would not count on the Osborne machine to give you an answer that you could trust. So, Fender Champ. It's been, from the day it was invented, it's been a great circuit. It still is. It's a fantastic tone. The only reason people started playing higher wattage amplifiers, 50 and 100 watt amplifiers, even 200 watt amplifiers in some situations, is because out of necessity, right? It wasn't because they necessarily wanted to get louder. It was out of necessity. I mean, yes, you do need enough. If you're playing with a live drummer, an acoustic drummer, you're going to need enough to be able to hear yourself. But the reason, honest to God reason that we got into 100 watt amplifiers and 50 watt amplifiers is because the stages grew immensely, right? The stages weren't that big, other than country music probably had the biggest stage of all, being the Grand Ole Opry, long before heavy metal ever did that. But when we started playing, 25,000, 30,000, in some cases, like this Pontiac Silverdome, 90,000 seat auditoriums, you had to, and you're going to be on a large stage, and you're going to be pretty good distance from your amplifier, so you needed to be able to hear it, right? So it's not that all these amplifiers were better than anything. That really doesn't get much better than the Fender Champ, really. I mean, probably if you wanted something a little better than a Champ, louder, a Deluxe would be, a good place to be. I've got that little Deluxe, and I just love it, man. It's loud enough could gig with it if I wanted to, but it's not 100 watts blaring through your head, which sometimes is nice, because and I love playing 100 watt with a 4x12 cab. I love doing that. The feeling it gives me when I'm half deaf afterwards, I love that. That's my drug, right? So I don't drink or anything like that, so that's my drug. That's how I get off, is standing in front of a 100 watt amplifier with a 4x12 cab cranked up. I think that's one of the greatest feelings in the world for me. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on this because number one, it was in the live stream the other day, and I was listening to what guy was saying, and he was not wrong, but I don't think he necessarily gave any real answer. And then when I searched it on Google, it's just form after form after form pops up, and it Randy Rhoads tone, Marshall Super Lead, and that's just not the truth of the matter. I've seen forums where it shows the whole pedal board and everything else, and again, that's just not. I mean, if you want the rig that Randy hated, yeah, go buy a Super Lead and get all the pedals that he had in front of it and play like that. That's the rig that Randy couldn't stand, because it fed back, and it was just so squealy and hissing and everything else. So, I don't know what Randy Rhoads would be doing. There's no telling what he would be doing. There's a lot of people that believe that he would not have stayed in Ozzy's band, and I'm pretty good with believing that too, because I think he really wanted to go back to Quiet Riot. Ozzy talked about it. Bob Daisley talked about how he really wasn't interested in staying in Ozzy, and not because he didn't like the music, but it was because it was just so unprofessional. Ozzy was a drunk and a drug addict, and he was completely unprofessional. That's the beef Randy Rhoads had with Ozzy. Nothing more than that. It was just, he wanted to be surrounded with other true musicians, who were dedicated to their craft, and I don't blame him for that. Can't fault anybody for that. Now, there's a lot of people that can drink and use whatever they use, very recreationally and not be unprofessional, but there's, that's few and far between. So, who knows? Maybe Randy would have ended up being like a Steve Vai, like a solo artist of some sort. I'll tell you what, we missed out on God knows what would have come from him had he lived. We got to see the very beginning of what he was about to do in heavy metal, and God knows what it would have turned into. I'm sure that he would be right up there today the same way he was back in '82. And I mean, he's probably bigger today than he was then anyway, but I'm sure he would. I guess what trying to say is that I'm sure he would be just as relevant today as he was back then, because there's really not a lot of guitar players that number one have their own style. Zakk Wylde, and the cool thing about Ozzy's guitarists is all of their guitarists had their own style. I mean, you look at Jakey Lee, and Cam Cooper's doing some stuff on Jakey Lee, just started today, and he really breaks down some great patterns that Jakey Lee used. Jake was incredible. Jake was doing a lot of stuff. I think he was trying to prove a lot of stuff back then, but he's an incredible guitar player. You can pick him out. You could, no matter what band he's playing in, you could hear it on the radio and say, that's Jake. Just like no matter where you are and what band you hear on the radio, and you hear Willie Nelson, Trigger, you can pick it out. That's Willie Nelson, you know that. You can pick out Zakk Wylde, and there's not a lot of players that can be that way, you know. So yeah, it really is. It's heartbreaking, honestly, when you think about, you know, what the world missed out on with losing Randy Rhoads. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of, and I wanted to, you know, let you guys know that the guys that have not seen the video, and I'll try to put a link either in the description or in the video. You know, I have an entire, I think it's an hour long, and like I said, there's no video, but it's audio of Randy. He used to do these like meet and greets before the show, and somebody recorded the entire thing years ago. It was in like 3 parts on the internet, and I put it all together in 1 part and put it on my channel several years ago, and that has not gotten as many hits as you think it would, because it's really probably one of the only recordings of Randy out there today, even though there's tons of it that we're not allowed to hear because of the Osbournes. It is an entire of people asking Randy questions about, hey, how do you play this? And he's, you know, very generously showing them, you know, it's like this, and very honest about things. Hey, how do you play this? And he goes, oh, well, you know, we don't play that one live, you know, and here's why, because it just doesn't work live. You know, it's very too difficult to play it live. If we were going to play it live, probably have to do something like this, you know. And I don't remember what song he was talking about, but it's pretty cool. It's go check it out. And in that video, he talks about his rig, and he also, I think he talks about recording in the studio with his Fender Champ. I know you can go probably somewhere on my channel. There is a video of Rudy Sarzo talking about what Randy recorded with, as well as Bob Daisley. Also, you know, and the other thing is get Randy Rhoads' tone. Well, which tone? You want the tone he had in Quiet Riot? Because the tone he had in Quiet Riot, that was a Peavey solid state head. In fact, Ed Dana owns one of them. I can't remember exactly which model it was offhand. It was a Peavey solid state, and he had like 6 10-inch Altex speakers inside of a cabinet. So yeah, you know, that would be the Quiet Riot tones, you know, that you're hearing is through that. Now, I don't know whether he recorded with his little Fender Champ then in Quiet Riot or not, but I do know his live rig was a solid state Peavey head. And so yeah, man, we missed out on a lot of great playing, losing Randy. So there you go, how to get Randy Rhoads tones. We've discussed the rig he hated. We've discussed the rig he was using. We don't really know, but we do know what he was using in the studio, and it's not a Marshall. Not even close. All right, guys, until next time, peace out.